Wednesday, my dude.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Happy second State of the Union of the Trump regime day. How are you, my friend?
It is Wednesday, my dude.
Wednesday, start drinking. Chug that alcohol for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I did, my folks are old, having some medical stuff. So I was tech support guy for the entire day, which is like my frustration level through the roof, but handled it all. And hopefully I don't have to go back for a month for that part of it.
I feel you. That has, I've taken that role on as well. And it's a little like smashing a head against a wall, but it's all necessary. Yeah. So, you know.
Hey, man. How's your role?
Right. It's all right. You know, we're, looks like Josh is going down to Alabama to film a movie. So I will be flying solo in Los Angeles. And I'm sure we'll get along really well. That's what makes a relationship tick.
So you're saying we should we have time for a fourth show now? Is that what
that's exactly here? Yeah. 34 years into our relationship, we found the absence makes the heart grow fonder. All right, we are going to get to business because we have a guest standing by whom we're really excited to talk about, but we just want to remind everyone, please, to make sure to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. We really appreciate the comments, the retweets, the support. You guys are awesome. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It helps us a lot when you like the actual video and on YouTube.
Yeah.
And should we start with Oliver's campaign ad?
Yeah. So we're going to bring on Democratic Socialist, union organizer, fighting for Medicare for all, $25 an hour and a Green New Deal. He's running in the August 18th Democratic primary election in Florida's 23rd district against incumbent Representative Jared Moskowitz. Oliver Larkin, this is his one of his many wonderful ads that he's put out, and then we will bring him on.
Spineless, afraid, incompetent. That's how Democrats are describing our party right now in the New York Times. Why? Because we have corporate aligned politicians like Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and Jared Moskowitz leading our party into the ground. We need representatives who will stand up for what's right. Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk when it comes to abolishing and prosecuting ICE, taxing the rich, and finally winning Medicare for all. Hi, I'm Oliver Larkin, Democratic Socialist running for Congress in Florida's 23rd District against moderate Jared Moskowitz. When the New York Times asked 13 Democratic Party members whether they preferred a moderate or a progressive, every single one said that a progressive champion is what is needed to meet the moment to resist Trump's fascism. If you agree with that resounding sentiment, then support our campaign at www.oliverforcongress.com as we fight for an affordable South Florida for all.
Amazing. Welcome to the show, Oliver Larkin. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Great to meet you, Lila. Great to meet you, Patrick. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, we too. Go ahead.
Can I just say right off the bat, I love that you brought up the New York Times and put that in their people's face because it's a credible source. It's indisputable. It's
we don't normally find it credible. We have a lot to take issue with, but the right people, the right people will see that and be like, "Oh, that's something, right?"
Right.
And you name names, which I love. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I've been completely unafraid to do. When Axios reached out to me earlier last fall, they surveyed over 100 Democratic House candidates running to ask where we were at when it comes to Hakeem Jeffries and his leadership in the Democratic House caucus. And I was one of 20 that said I'm a firm no. I just don't believe that we're seeing the kind of leadership from this minority opposition party that we need to be seeing right now in an era of fascism and increasing authoritarianism. So I'm not afraid to name names. And what we're doing with that New York Times article is maybe a microcosm of what we're trying to do to show people in the established liberal circles that our campaign is actually where the American people and the people of Florida's 23rd district are at. This is what this moment requires in order to respond to Trump's fascism and to win back the House. And when we win it back, not just have milquetoast establishment liberal Democrats, but actually have progressives in there that'll put up a fight and win things like Medicare for all.
I love it. I mean, all of that is so fantastic. How is Jared doing down there in Florida? I mean, there's one clip after another of him just kind of being smarmy and smug and not actually fighting for anything. What's the overall vibe? Yeah.
He's absent. The thing here is people cannot get a hold of him. His constituent service, people can't get his office to pick up the phone to even get answers on their Social Security or their Medicare, which the wait times to get responses on that stuff, thanks to his support for Doge as the very first Democrat in the entire Congress to join Elon Musk's Doge caucus. People are really feeling the pressure with his lacking constituent services. He has not had a single public town hall. We were canvassing on President's Day in Wilton Manors. We've knocked on nearly 5,000 doors, by the way. So this truly is a grassroots campaign where we're talking to people face to face, talking to voters. And they're the ones that are volunteering words like authoritarianism, fascism, secret police when it comes to ICE. And so when we tell people about his support for the Laken Riley Act or his multiple appointments by Governor DeSantis, they're horrified and they really want to see a change. And that's just not something that we're going to have if we have the same Democrat that was unopposed in 2024, not even having a primary. I mean, this is someone who was just coming in on the glide path and has continued to show where his true colors are. Which is siding more and more often with the Republican Party. So that's the contrast in this race. And every time that we're out on the doors or at community events, it is highlighting that contrast that Jared Moskowitz is absent. He's just not working hard for us. Regardless of what you think about his ideology, this is someone who the Nonpartisan Center for Effective Lawmaking at the University of Virginia and Vanderbilt University found on objective criteria to be Florida's least effective Democrat in Congress. He was missing nearly triple the average number of House members' votes. He's not introducing or getting legislation passed. This is someone who he's not showing up for us here. He's not doing his job in Washington, D.C. So what's he doing for us? We need a change.
I agree. Can I have a question? I really dislike the framing, and this isn't your framing, of him as a moderate, or all of these corporate-owned Democrats who paved the way for fascism as moderates, because to me, it's radical that they are partnering with corporations over people, that they're denying healthcare, that they are pro-genocide, pro-ICE, pro-border control in the sort of fascist way that that Trump and Biden, Harris also were pushing for their border bill. I feel like I want to take that word back, because the middle of the road in our country is the policies that you are fighting for. Like, most of this country wants all of that. So I feel like it's deeply unfair to label these people as moderates, because it's too gentle, in my opinion. I understand that was the way they set it up, but I really hate that. They're not moderate.
Yeah, I think that's the recalibration that we're attempting to do. And we've seen leading progressive figures across the country frame this as it is not extreme or radical to believe that every single person in this country should have the right to health care, or the right to affordable housing, or the right to a wage that pays them enough so that one job is enough. What is truly extreme and radical is supporting a genocide, is supporting tax cut after tax cut for billionaires, corporations that are increasing income and wealth inequality, which is already worse than it has ever been in this country, even worse than during the Roaring 20s, right before the Great Depression. That is the level of extremism that we need to highlight. When Mayor Mamdani in New York City is talking about raising a wealth tax, and Jared Moskowitz is going on Fox News saying that's not going to work, that is a killer in the Democratic Party. That is completely toxic to any kind of progress that this country or this party is attempting to make. So I completely agree with you. That was the New York Times' framing.
I know. I just, yeah.
But this is Jared Magowitz. I mean, this is who we're talking about. This is someone who supports conservative, explicitly conservative policies. When we talk about the Laken Riley Act, this is contravening the United States Constitution and our right to due process. I mean, this is giving police state power to Donald Trump's secret police that are completely unaccountable to anyone but the people he installs in his administration. No, that's the level of extremism, and we need to root it out of our government.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would you say the reason is for him holding some of these positions? Is it just donor access, and they are going to profit largely from these conservative / corporate positions?
I think campaign finance and his special interest donors are an enormous part of it. I also want to frame this for the people watching, because Florida's 23rd district was the closest House race in the state of Florida in 2024, but we're in a county, in Broward County, that has the highest Democratic voter registration in the entire state. So why have we seen the margins in these races get tighter and tighter and tighter? It's not because the people, the working class in our district, don't believe that we deserve Medicare for all or these progressive policies. It's because we have leadership in our party and representatives who are catering to the far right, and they have a increasingly smaller and smaller slice of the voting electorate supporting them. So I believe if we're going to have the strongest Democratic nominee possible in November, we need to have someone who's able to motivate working class people, to motivate young people and college students and progressives to turn out to the polls in ways that we did not in 2024. And I'll just give you another example. In the state of Florida in 2020, Biden only lost to Donald Trump by about 3 percentage points. That increased to a 14-point gap in 2024. And what happened in the meantime? The genocide in Gaza was raging, inflation was getting worse, and we had Democrats like Jared Moskowitz who are saying, even today, that that's not the reason why we lost in 2024. They want to just retread the same failed status quo policies. And people in South Florida are not buying it. They're ready for something different. And I think we're in a very interesting moment of potential partisan realignment where a lot of people on the right, a lot of people who have traditionally voted Republican, they're suffering from the cost of living crisis. They're sick and tired of seeing billions and billions of taxpayer dollars going to support a genocide. They want to see that money invested at home. And I think there's a lot more commonality there than people in the traditional news media would let on. But it's there, and we see it every single day when we're talking to voters.
Yeah, I mean, they love talking about how divided we are as a country. I don't feel that way when I talk to real people. I really don't. And when you see the polls, I mean, Matt Taibbi's sort of fallen from grace, which I understand. But his what was it? The War Room media. Now I can't even remember the name of it, but I loved the book so much that, Rachel Maddow, Glenn Beck, and just like keeping everybody so like, but when you're not providing social welfare programs, when you aren't raising the quality of life and material gains for working class people, and all you're fighting about is identity politics, that becomes a substitute for anything real. And the real stuff, both sides mostly agree on in Congress, right? Like if it's war, if it's denying us healthcare, if it's a living wage. And, as you say, like in Florida, when Biden lost Florida, but the $15 minimum wage won, right, in 2020. So, like, of course, these policies are popular with people. Thank you, Tony, the Hate Inc. book. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to contextualize that. A $15 minimum wage won in Florida, where you have to cross a 60% threshold to pass a constitutional amendment. Florida has the highest threshold of any state in the country, where we need 3/5 of all voters to support a constitutional amendment in order for it to pass. That's why, by the way, in 2024, when we had Amendment 4 to enshrine the right to abortion, when we had Amendment 3 for recreational marijuana, there were millions more people who voted to support these policies. But we live in a country with minoritarian rule, and it's stacked on top of each other. In Florida, we are brutally gerrymandered. We have supermajorities in both chambers of the legislature. We have a 60% constitutional amendment threshold where 42% of people who are anti-abortion beat the 58% who are pro-abortion. Yeah. And that just builds on itself, right? Into the Senate, into the Electoral College, into these anti-democratic structures in our Constitution. So we're really in a battle for democracy. And when you look at the progressive policies, and this is true, by the way, not only in Florida. I was on stream last night with Hartzell Gray, another wonderful progressive candidate running out in Missouri. And
Right.
Missouri and Florida, we're passing progressive ballot measures even as Democrats are losing to
Yep.
Republicans. So there's a real disconnect there where you've got, at the same time, Kamala Harris getting 43% of the vote in 2024, while abortion rights gets 57 or 58% of the
Yeah.
vote. That's a 13 or 14 point delta. And it shows the gap in trust and credibility in the Democratic Party. And if we had Jared Moskowitz, who was the only Democrat in the 2022 primary who opposed recreational marijuana, by the way, if we had a Democrat that was vocally supporting more freedom, ending the war on drugs, enshrining the right to abortion, I think we get to that 60% on those ballot referendums, and we
Yeah.
have a more competitive presidential election. And this is really important this year, where we have a United States Senate race and a governor's race, because we have a special election to the Senate to replace Marco Rubio. For the remainder of his term, Ashley Moody was appointed by Ron DeSantis. So for the first time in decades, Florida has both a governor's race and a Senate race on the ballot. This is one of the most important elections in the history of Florida, and we're going to need strong candidates to turn people out. And that's why this primary is so important.
Absolutely. Pat, you have something to say? I keep talking. I want you to say
Oh
something.
no, I mean, I just look, it's critical that the Democratic Party align itself, at least on the surface, with supporting these initiatives that have such mass appeal. Because not only on those issues does it make them look like they're in the wrong place, it makes everyone question where the leadership's money comes from, who's lining their pockets, that they're against these things that even in their own interest to get elected, they can't even pretend to support. So I think it's a drag on the entire Democratic Party, at large, really.
Yeah, and that's only pronounced in a state like Florida, where it is so expensive to run statewide. And so the Democrats feel like they need to make a deal with the devil just to be able to compete with Republicans and their special interests. Of course, I'm running in one congressional district, but if you're talking about running a statewide race in Florida, you're talking about having to raise upwards of $100 million, running ads in 8 or 9 different media markets from the Panhandle down to the Florida Keys. And so a lot of them take the shortcut and they take the corporate PAC money, and then they bite their tongue, whether it's with investor-owned utilities like Florida Power and Light, which just jacked up our rates by $7 billion, even as DeSantis's ombudsperson recommended that we should actually be lowering rates by hundreds of millions of dollars. FPL still gets what they want. And wherever you are in the country, you know that your utility is one of the least popular public entities in the country. And yet the Democratic Party takes their money. They're more than happy to. And then they bite their tongue when these investor-owned utilities or any other corporate interests try to put the boot on the neck of the working class. And so we really need to decouple what campaign finance means in terms of feeling like we need to be viable and what actually building a working class movement of the people requires. And that is going to take rejecting this corrupt corporate money.
It is. And also, I so appreciate that you call out by name the people who have been corrupted by the money they take. So I have to ask you about some of the people, if you get in, which we would love for you to get into Congress and be part of, a growing number of people who started out, at least, in the so-called squad, who maybe don't take corporate money or AIPAC money, but will endorse people who do. Because I think for a lot of us who were really energized by, Bernie in 2016 and then 2018 and then 2020, like that was the last time I ever gave money to a candidate back then, because I was like we do not have a democracy. Even when we get them in there, they don't band together. They don't use their even small numbers to leverage any power to demand any concessions to, for instance, AOC and the squad could have, before endorsing Biden, insisted that he protect the 2 other members of the squad, right, in 2024, right, that Cori Bush and not Booker, who I also really like. Who?
Bowman.
Yeah, Bowman. Thank you, Jamal Bowman. But like, there never seems to be a strategy that way. And it has made those people who felt like hope for many of us really fizzle out and kind of, I think, it's destroyed the idea of democracy for a lot of people who will just sit it out. So how do we help make people speak up when they do get into Congress? Like, for instance, AOC behind you. I know people have been commenting. We all see the poster there. And she, I was full on with 2018 AOC, and she has moments, but like, it's been really massively disappointing that she endorsed Biden, Genocide Joe, before she even asked for anything.
Yeah. One thing that I would be really interested in doing if I'm elected to Congress, when I'm elected to Congress, is joining a Socialists in Office caucus to exercise some real party discipline over the Democratic Party. Because I one thing I really resent, and it's a little bit odd being a candidate, because we live in a country of the personal political entrepreneur, that every single candidate says they've got the dial click just right for their brand of politics. That's right. So that's one thing that I really feel accountable to, being in an organization like the Democratic Socialists of America, where this is a project of our Broward County chapter, as well as Miami and Palm Beach County. And so that accountability measure, that solidarity, is something that I believe is in place of what is really lacking in the Democratic Party, where Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they're willing to let their members do whatever the hell, as long as they feel it's going to get them elected, even when it doesn't, even when it fails. They're just so deferential that there is such a lack of leadership. And when we look at what, hopefully we get Cori Bush back in there. I mentioned Hartzell, and there are other Democratic Socialists running for Congress all across the country, including in New York City and elsewhere. I hope that when we get in there and we can work in collaboration with a member like Rashida Tlaib to exercise some real power, and when it comes to electing the next Speaker of the House, get some real concessions. Let's get a vote on Medicare for all, so that we can see where every single member of Congress stands. And are they going to stand with their corporate donors, or are they going to stand with the people of their district? Especially the ones like Jared Moskowitz, who, after my years of advocacy for Medicare for all, going back to when I went to New Hampshire as a volunteer for Bernie Sanders in the summer of 2015, because I was so moved by the Medicare for all message and what that would mean for my family and the people I know and love. We have members now who are taking the Medicare for all co-sponsorship as just a checkbox. They don't believe it's ever going to be passed. They don't even feel the risk that they're ever going to need to vote on it. And so it's just a box they can check, and they can continue to take money from big pharma and the private health insurance and the for-profit medical technology and the for-profit hospital corporations. And so what we need is a dedicated caucus of what we would call a Socialists in Office caucus, to exercise some discipline over the Democratic Party and extract some demands, some concessions, and exercise some real influence and enforce some party discipline. If this Democratic Party says it is the party of the working class, then stand on that and vote like that. And if they don't, if some members do not, then it's only going to show really where this party's priorities lie, and why we need, it cannot just be me alone. It has to be people from all across the country. I wouldn't be doing this if I thought that I could do it myself. I'm doing this because I need to be one of many to get in there and exercise this real party discipline. And it has to come from outside of the corporate structure and the establishment of the Democratic Party, because that has failed us time and time again.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that brings Pat. I feel like I'm just talking. Do you want to say something before?
No. Sometimes it's easier when it's more of a two-way. So go ahead.
No. Get
I don't have any. I mean, questions. I wanted to show some of Moskowitz being a dirtbag. If we can show that video and get some comments on it,
just so people know what you're up against, because this guy is pathetic. Like, he is truly, this is him talking about the stock trade ban, which I think, as you said, he probably knows will never come up for a vote.
Do you agree that this should be a common sense piece of legislation?
So I'm on the legislation, right? I currently have a stock portfolio. My stock portfolio is managed by an outside company. They make trades, but I'm happy to comply, right? So, like, in the event this is where the House is going to go, if the Speaker puts it on the floor, I will vote for it, and I will divest that of all of my stocks.
But, ma'am, it's not going to happen, and I'm going to tell you, it will.
Do you think he's right? You think it's not going to happen?
I think Tim's right. The idea of us getting this past the House, the Senate, and to the president. Now, I will agree with Tim that it's not going to happen, but I'll agree for a broader reason, which he said, which is we just don't pass anything. So this is just another thing that gets cogged in the wheel, right? That we are no longer the greatest legislative body in America. I mean, we're a wonderful communications body.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't even know about that at the moment, but
Yeah,
It's not going to get past that attitude.
I'll vote against corruption and comply, but I'll be corrupt until you get that bill passed, basically. Like, that's not leadership right there.
Just a player in the game. Yeah.
And it's just like you said with the Medicare for All. He's checking the box. Yeah, I'll support that, but it's not going to happen.
Like Jasmine Crockett
push
just
for
said,
it.
she's been a sponsor of Medicare for All. Meanwhile, she was out there, in August, talking about Bernie's Fight the Oligarchy tour with AOC and saying that it was just a play for more publicity. Like, just despicable. I mean, there are other things that a person might want to say about that tour, like, where were you for the past 4 years, but not that that's a play for, I don't know. Yeah. So it's very clear where different people's loyalties lie. And what you were saying about, like, with Jeffries saying, well, we have to be a big tent, but it's not. It's always just to move right for your corporate donors, right? Like, who do you lose when you throw trans people under the bus, when you say, oh, Kamala's loss means that we have to go anti-woke, and I can say, anti-trans and pronouns are so ridiculous. That's what lost us the election. And, like, all of that stuff is where the Gavin Newsoms and Jeffries and the whole, third way politics, they're working so hard on an abundance, trying to craft a message, because the reality of what they stand for is never going to change. They're always just going to work for their donors, but they're trying to appeal to the most people. And it never works that way, going after that sliver of, the Mitt Romney Republican, but they are losing the whole left base. So I love that you proudly call yourself like the Socialist Caucus. I love that.
Yeah, and I think what you just pointed out, the pressure only moves in one direction when it comes to this corporate establishment of the Democratic Party. And I think that was a real breaking point for me after years and years of vote blue no matter who. You got to vote for the greater good.
Yep.
Well, where's vote blue no matter who when it's Zoran
Mamdani,
Mamdani running against a Trump-backed sex pest in Andrew Cuomo, and Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer still couldn't make up their minds about that? It's the level of disingenuousness, I think, for me, was the breaking point with Leader Jeffries, where it's just not leadership in the way that anyone would expect. You need integrity, you need consistency, you need moral character to truly be a trusted leader. And that's something that I admired so much about Senator Sanders when I was first becoming aware of the concept of democratic socialism. When I was just getting involved in his campaign 10 years ago, it was the integrity and the consistency over decades that really builds trust. And that's why you'll see someone like Mayor Mamdani winning support from Trump voters. Yeah. Even if they don't agree with him on every single issue, they know what they're getting, and they know that this is a man of integrity. And that is something that is just so completely lacking with the sliminess of this Democratic Party. So no, you're absolutely right. The pressure only moves in one direction. And if we're going to be consistent and have integrity, then we need to enforce party discipline when you do have democratic socialists that are increasingly taking the reins and leading the country. Because as we talked about, when we're talking about Medicare for all or free college education or getting money out of politics, these are not extreme positions. These are the middle of the road positions that the vast majority of Americans, regardless of their partisan identification, by the way, they all agree. I mean, you've got nearly half of Republicans who agree with Medicare for all. That should be an issue that they should be battling out in their primaries if the Democratic Party is just uniformly standing on, yes, we're the party of believing healthcare is a human right. That is the kind of direction we need to move this country in, because that's ultimately how we're going to get legislation like that passed.
Yeah. And tax the rich.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Jen Perlman saying hi to you. She's a good friend of the show, so she's saying hi.
Oh, hey, Jen.
Jen.
Yes,
I was just
carrying the
thinking
torch
about how
forward
much-
against AIPAC Democrats down here.
That's right. That's right. Yes, sorry, Pat.
I was just thinking about how much, 10 years ago, if you ran with socialism in your name, there was a stigma attached to it. But there has been a real sea change in that level in the same respect that, things were so bad in politics that people elected Trump as throwing the grenade in and just change the system. Yeah. And so I think even for a lot of moderates that have been brainwashed against the concept of socialism, they've come to that same place that the Trump voters came to in the opposite direction, in a way of like, hey, this system is so bad. Like the guy offering free bus fare can't be so bad compared to ICE, right? Like it's not so scary anymore.
Us, right? Like, yeah, I think, and also because there's no investment in, like, the whole younger generation isn't an active part of capitalism. They've been completely abandoned by capitalism. So why would they believe in that economic system, right? And then going back to something like force the vote, I mean, that was 6 years ago. And there was some secret plan about why they weren't going to do force the vote because we were going to get our $15 minimum wage or whatever. Nobody's even talked about that. And like, we need 35. That's where people need to, that should be the starting place before it's like pushed down to, 30 or whatever. But like 6 years ago, it was force the vote.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned exactly, once Kyrsten Sinema put that thumbs down on the $15 minimum wage, you didn't hear a peep from Democrats about it for years afterward, for the rest of the Biden administration, after they ran on that as a promise. If you deliver us 2 Senate seats in Georgia, we'll give you a $15 minimum wage. And so that's another part. And when we look at this new reporting from Axios that the DNC is trying to bury this autopsy of the 2024 election, because it just comports with the data that's already out there. The exit polling all shows, it's all public information,
of course,
that the genocide was the #1 reason why Biden 2020 voters did not support Harris in 2024. Right. But they're ostriches with their heads buried in the sand. And so denying reality is not a recipe for success. It is just giving ground to the Republicans. And I'll tell you a quick story about this kind of, the burgeoning popularity of running as a Democratic socialist. When I was working for the Sanders campaign in New Hampshire a decade ago, New Hampshire, unlike Florida, has a semi-open primary where if you are an independent voter, you can choose on primary day, I want to go vote in the Republican primary, I want to go vote in the Democratic primary. To me, that is a true measure of democracy. And when we look at Florida as a closed primary state, one of the most restrictive, it's actually a voter disenfranchising method to require people to be registered with a political party in order to participate in a primary election of their choice. But when I was speaking to independent voters, as was so often the case when we were canvassing or phone banking in New Hampshire, I met so many people who said, I'm going to support Bernie or I'm going to support Trump. But the status quo is not cutting it anymore. After 8 years of the Obama administration and all of the soaring promises of hope and change, and then we see that run right up against the Tea Party movement, gridlock in Congress, gerrymandering, the Supreme Court moving further and further to the right, and then Mitch McConnell holding Antonin Scalia's seat open for 9 or 10 months. People felt let down. People felt like the promise of the Obama administration was never truly realized when Occupy Wall Street was demanding accountability for the crash and the Great Recession that turned tens of millions of people into foreclosure and accelerating this income and wealth inequality. People expected accountability, but instead of anyone going to prison, the big banks got even bigger, and what was too big to fail is even larger now. And so I saw that 10 years ago, and I remember one thing that just lives completely rent-free in my mind is then Representative co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, now Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. He went on This Week with ABC and was at a panel in person with George Stephanopoulos and Maggie Haberman, two people, by the way, who have done very well financially selling their books and profiting off of the chaos of the last 10 years of Donald Trump. But when Keith Ellison said, y'all better look out for this man, Donald Trump, because he's got something here. People are really angry in this country. And if you don't look out for him, he could be our next president. And I'm telling you, Maggie Haberman and George Stephanopoulos were doubled over in tears, laughing Ellison off of the set. But who was right? Who actually had their finger on the pulse? And it's because Ellison is an organizer. He comes from an organizing background. And for myself as an organizer, that's what I've seen. We talk to people. We don't just sit in the corporate boardrooms or at the fancy cocktail dinners with our funders. We are talking to the people, and that's ultimately how we're going to take our country back. So that's why we're running such a field-focused campaign.
Well, that's great. I love everything you're saying. I agree with everything. I know I'm trying to get to some of the different comments here, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us lost that hope and change feel, and Bernie at that point was the dream. Now I think sometimes we feel like he's the compromise, but still, like, you know, I think he woke a lot of us up, and I so appreciate that. Pat, before I possibly veer off to a different subject, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, I'm still stuck on this. Like, you know, the public got to see Trump and the Republicans do things that weren't bipartisan at all, with no effort whatsoever. And they're evil things. And most of the public thinks, well, this ICE stuff, we don't need to be cruel. You know, left and right, they're doing bad stuff. So the idea that the Democrats still run this bipartisan idea of like, and powerlessness, that they can't ever get anything done. They don't have enough to get something done now. When, like, if you ran on anything good, and it's just so easy. I think just in the face of all this fascism, that they don't have the balls to run on doing good things for people. It just blows my mind. They're just going to run on being moderate, a little bit, 5% more moderate than the Republicans, but 90% less cruel openly, less openly racist. And that's their whole game. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, there's such a difference, right, with how Trump uses the bully pulpit of the presidency. I mean, he can fire off one truth and get a Republican who he's dissatisfied with primaried. We had Joe Biden, who unfortunately could not string a sentence together, much less hit the road and campaign in an aggressive way while in office, while he was the
leader of the free world.
the leader of the free world. So when Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are saying we need to decouple Build Back Better and just pass this trimmed down, more corporate friendly policy, and to hell with universal child care and pre-K and these other big promises that the Biden administration, the Biden campaign made, he was unable to articulate why Sinema and Manchin were wrong. And we see now Trump is just so much, Republicans are at such a greater advantage to enacting their agenda because they have a strong leader. Unfortunately, it is a fascist and authoritarian direction that they're taking the country in, but they can enforce party discipline in a way that the Democratic Party, it's just complete haplessness. And it almost feels like they've come up with new excuses for why they can't stuff.
It is by design.
I think, they have amazing discipline over their people, which is why when they need 13 votes shy to not pass whatever the funding for DHS, they make sure that 6 people vote with Republicans, 7 people don't show up. Like Biden was obviously, his eyeballs were bleeding out on the stage in 2019. We all knew, but I don't think he ever would have used we heard him speaking when he was talking about Black kids in the, jungles of the city when he was trying to push the crime bill, or about how he had to go to war with Iraq over a lie that he even knew was a lie. So and also even before he came in, he was telling governors, don't worry, we're not passing the $15 minimum wage. So like, I think that Democrats are completely, they are fighting for exactly what they want as a party. The leadership is, and what they want has nothing to do with what the working class wants. So I feel like that is the thing. Like, they're not weak, they're not feckless, they're not cowards, they're paid to lose, and they're fine doing that. And I feel like once my eyes were open to that, everything else feels ridiculous. It's like everybody's just putting on a show. Chuck Schumer saying we're going to fight and write a strongly worded letter into the, but they're getting exactly what their donors want them to fight for. The only people they ever fight against are the left flank of their party. It's just disgusting. They're just disgusting.
Yeah, it's like turning on the TV and watching the Harlem Globetrotters play the Washington Generals.
Truly, that is it. Yeah. Or worldwide wrestling. I mean, even watching that god awful State of the Union. I mean, Trump couldn't even muster up any energy. Like, he was boring himself, but it felt so embarrassingly bad acting of two wrestlers pretending to hate each other as he's telling people they're shameful for not standing up or saying awful racist lies, all of it. But in the face of that, the thing that is crazy to me is that Democrats really don't even know how to pretend to be on the side anymore. They do not care. And that's where all of these different, corporate consulting people who are trying to message the right way, is because they're trying to figure out, how do we still pretend to be working class without promising too much? But man, they just I think the game is up. I don't think anybody thinks it's that they're weak anymore. I think people really understand. And all those AIPAC tracker, which I saw, they put out, a graphic of you and Moskowitz, which is great. But anybody, now calling things as they are, calling people by name, detailing who pays this person. And that's why he or she is voting the way he or she is. That makes perfect sense. And then we can get out of the they're weak and feckless. Why did they pick Abigail Spanberger to deliver the rebuttal? She's an AIPAC-funded ex-CIA spook right-wing governor. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a continuation of the Democrats just trying to cozy right up to the point that people are falling off of the Republican Party because it's a little bit too fascist for them, but they still want to see this fundamentally conservative ideology where the United States, it's a neoconservative foreign policy. It is a surveillance state. It is a post 9/11 consensus where we see now policy like the Patriot Act. I mean, we talk about abolishing and prosecuting ICE. We should really be having this conversation about the entire Department of Homeland Security. Absolutely. Because it is it is younger than I am. And I'm not that old. I know I have some gray, but it's because I worked in politics. I'm not that old. It's the Department of Homeland Security. It's the Patriot Act. It is how these things build. When we talk about manufacturing consent, right? The Patriot Act did not allow for Bush era wiretapping. So when we talk about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, Section 702 was passed in 2008 to excuse what the National Security Administration was doing, which was illegally wiretapping Americans in their correspondence with people overseas. And now we have, and this is a really interesting thing when we talk about the partisan realignment, because I spoke with The Intercept for an article on the upcoming FISA reauthorization last December. And when FISA reauthorization came up in the last Congress, and the time came for a vote on whether or not to require a warrant from the federal government in order to surveil Americans in Section 702, that vote to require a warrant failed by a single vote. And Jared Moskowitz, as it happens, caved to the Biden administration's pressure and voted against a warrant requirement. But this is something where it was a one vote margin, and it was equal numbers, roughly equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans on either side. And so there's all of this talk, right, about the left versus right on the economic spectrum. And there's very little discussion of the top versus bottom, authoritarianism versus freedom. And that's an entirely new axis that when you look at Representative Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie with the Epstein files, with the War Powers Resolution, which as it happens, Jared Moskowitz is one of two House Democrats, along with Josh Gottheimer, to come out already in opposition to Congress exercising its constitutional authority and just giving Trump a blank check to take us into another illegal war. But we see that there are these other axes that exist. It's not just left versus right. There's a whole other dynamic at play here. And I believe that when we do talk about how we can build consensus and rebuild some kind of camaraderie, not camaraderie, but how we can rebuild some kind of functioning relationship, it has to come from looking at taking on this Epstein class and disassembling this post 9/11 consensus that has really been the predicate for the fascism that we're seeing. The fascism has been enabled by the manufacturing of consent that happened 25 years ago.
We're still at a high threat level. Like that happened 25 years ago and we still have not peeled back anything. It's just gotten more and more oppressive. And, there was Biden giving more money to ICE and private prisons than Trump had before. I mean, it just it keeps going.
Yeah. And just a quick thing, since you, Oh, sorry, Patrick. Just a quick thing.
Oh, no,
since
I
you
was just
mentioned private prison. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
I mean, there was a Supreme Court ruling today against Geo Group, the private prison corporation, the largest in the country, because what they're doing is taking people who are detained, and 3/4 of people detained by ICE in the new fiscal year have no criminal conviction whatsoever. So this has been wholly enabled by the Lake and Riley Act and Democrats like Jared Moskowitz, who voted with Republicans to pass Donald Trump's very first law after he promised mass detention and deportation on the 2024 campaign trail. First law that he passed was the Lake and Riley Act with Democratic support. And we have Geo Group's corporate headquarters right here in our district, in Boca Raton in the 23rd district. And Geo Group headquarters is right across the street from Florida Atlantic University. And what did Jared Moskowitz do last year? He wrote a personal letter of recommendation to the FAU Board of Trustees to recommend Adam Hasner, a private prison executive, former House Majority Leader on the Republican side in Tallahassee. Jared Moskowitz recommended a private prison executive with no experience in higher education to be president of our largest public university in the district. And so, I mean, we need to abolish private prisons. I had to get that out there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to step on what you were saying, Patrick, but I hear private prisons and it sets me off.
It's disgusting.
Well, and you're right to bring it up, and that's, the future problems are not the past problems. Like, so there's a new industry created. It's the surveillance state with AI and tech bros, which that converges and connects to all the tech in Israel. There's the ICE prison complex, industrial complex that everyone's getting rich off of that. So these are new industries, but both sides are profiting from it. And all these tech bros with the surveillance state, they existed before Trump and they were Democrats. So, they are post-partisan. They don't care whoever's in power, they're going to be on their side and leverage their heft and money. And that's why it's so important that we fight that now, especially when it comes to the surveillance and AI piece to it.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, we saw the acceleration of drone strikes under the Obama administration, right? Even killing U.S. citizens with drone strikes. And so
war criminal, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
truly, yeah.
Yeah. So Patrick, I mean, that's a great point. And we're in a little nexus here, and I'm really trying to get the word out with this campaign, because in addition to Geo Group headquarters, Palantir was just in the news. They're moving their corporate headquarters to Miami, just south of our district, but right here in South Florida. We've got an outpost of Elbit Systems, which is a weapons manufacturer that's sending weapons to the IDF, also right here in Boca Raton. And these corporations are not welcome here in our community. They are pitting the working class in one country against another. And it is going to a vanishingly small number of executives and tech bros that really want to automate out any kind of worker and just have all of the profits be towards the billionaires and the 1%. And the rest of us can just, I suppose, be detained eventually by Geo Group and Core Civic, and we can.
That is why those data centers those detention centers are being built, because it's not for permanent influx of immigrants, right? It's eventually just for the working class, which is I love that you talked about international working class solidarity, because that is also vital. Okay, we said that we were going to have you for 30 to 45 minutes and we've stepped over. Where can people find you? How can they donate? How can they support? Tell us where to find you.
Yeah, our website, www.oliverforcongress.com. That's 4 as FOR. And we really need the support. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. So if you can afford to chip in $5, $10, $23, give monthly if you can. That's a huge component of being able to build our budget and hire staff and open our field office and invest in the advertising that we're going to need to reach people. People can also find me on social media. I'm at Oliver A. Larkin. That's on Twitter, TikTok. I'm at Oliver Adams Larkin on Instagram, Threads, Oliver for Congress on Facebook. And really, wherever you find me, we're going to be spreading this working class message, building a solidaristic movement, and showing the country that democratic socialism is not just for the deep blue areas. It is the message to win the working class all across the country, and it is a vehicle for the kind of progressive change that our country needs. And so thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you both, and I hope we can do it again.
Such a pleasure. And last, when is the primary? Is August 18th, 16th, 18th?
That's right. Our primary is August 18th. You must be a registered Democratic voter in order to participate in our primary. So that voter registration deadline is 29 days before the election. It is on July 20th this year. You must be a registered Democrat by July 20th in order to vote in our primary on August 18th. There's going to be a week of early voting from August 8th to 15th. And you can also vote by mail. You just need to request it. In the state of Florida, because they do voter suppression, you have to request a vote by mail ballot for each new election going forward. So if that is your usual mechanism for voting, please make sure you request your vote by mail ballot.
And I also recommend, because it reminds me of California when we had the primaries with Bernie and we were trying to take over the Democratic Party leadership on the local level, check your party affiliation, because similarly, you could not vote for leadership positions within the Democratic Party if you weren't registered as an actual Democrat. And so, you know, it was never proven, but I was one who changed my affiliation from independent to Democrat several times to try to vote in that. And every time I checked it, they changed me back to a Democrat for some reason. And there's a lot of shenanigans. So check your affiliation if you want to vote in this, please.
Thank you so much, Oliver. We will be rooting for you and following your campaign.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure speaking with you. Take care.
Truly, us too. Thank you. Take care. Oh, sorry. So that was amazing. He said all the right things. I love that. You know, I do feel like, obviously, Abigail Spanberger is awful. But, you know, Summer Lee is such a strong voice. She was the Working Families Party rebuttal, which was great. And I do think that, you know, the more people that we get in there, possibly the more courage some of them will have. I mean, some people have had courage all along. I think Rashida Tlaib and Summer Lee and Ilhan Omar, you know, they are always, I think, true to their ideology, which is wonderful. All right. Should we spin?
Yeah, let's do do we have cheers?
Yeah, should we start with cheers?
Yeah, cheers it up. Let's go.
All right, let's start with cheers, talking about message discipline. It has been stormy out there on the East Coast and in New York. And watch this guy being interviewed by a local reporter and how he talks about what's going on the streets of New York.
We're kind of looking at now that we're seeing.
There's still people out in doorways looking for shelter, and I think a lot of people think this is why we shouldn't allow hedge funds to own residential property.
And so what we were talking about earlier too is a little bit of the nostalgia aspect, right? How this feels kind of like back in the 90s when we were growing up.
Yeah, like we were saying, yeah, it was much more snow, colder winters, and again, private equity didn't own so much of the housing stock in America.
Thank you so much, Kaj. We want to keep.
Could anybody even hear that? I'm so annoyed. It was so loud on my computer. Oh my God.
It's a StreamYard thing. And unfortunately, if we, unless we share a video where we're on screen ourselves with it, which is a different style of doing it.
Let me see if I can do that. Let me try and do that really quickly.
We can't adjust the audio. It's so annoying. And it sounds when we play it back like it's full audio, and then we go live and it's
okay.
crap.
Here, I have it. Let's try this. Give me 1 second, because it was so great and he was great, and to watch her try and take it away. Okay, here, let's see. I'm gonna put the volume. Let's see if this works.
Now that we're seeing.
Is the volume all the way
maxed
up?
out? That's maxed out. Jeez.
That's crazy.
There's still people
all right. Darn it. You guys, I'm so
we'll
sorry.
get back.
That stinks. Anyway, he's talking about private equity taking over, and she keeps trying to remove the microphone. I know. I am seeing Kimiko saying Lucky. You can hear Lucky, and we can't hear the video.
Do me a favor, upload that to the drive while we're showing something, and I'll boost it in volume in my app. I feel like we have to show it now. We have to show it.
Okay.
So
okay, great. All right. So we're gonna spin this
in the wheel and bring some joy.
Okay.
And
we'll find it. Okay. 1 second. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you. That I definitely need. All right, wait. I know. We got a lot of stuff to handle right now. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, baby.
We'll probably show it later. What are we doing?
What's happening? All right, 1 second.
Yeah, baby.
There we go. Do we have a good puppet?
Oh, we always have.
Always.
Oh, the Olympic dog. We got to show that before it runs out of time. This guy just ran on the course on his own. Who's a good boy?
That's really cute. Was that official Olympic feed? Because if it was, we're about to get blacked out. It wasn't, was
Oh,
it?
you're shitting me. Are they going to get us again for the dog?
I will KIL
Come
you.
on.
No
Please,
way.
no.
That will be real bummer. All right, and I am uploading the other thing to the drive, but then I have to
I'll
quit
fix
out.
it during the show. We'll show it later. Yeah.
We're still here for now. Okay, so I guess let's just get right into this ridiculous State of the Union. It was so excruciatingly boring, unreal.
Oh my God.
Just, I think it went for 107 minutes, the longest one ever, which I'm sure they were, managing that because all their friends at Polymarket or whatever, Kalshi, were taking bets. And so they figured out a way to make some more money off of the backs of everybody else. This is a quick little montage that Zateo put together with some of the lowlights, but just because some of these things we'll be referring to, we will give it a quick look.
A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. And in 1 year, we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record off of food stamps. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday.
Oh,
A short time ago.
sorry, that was so painful. And I actually watched the whole thing.
I could lie and say I did. I tried and I just lost my attention span, got nuked. So I watched about an hour of it.
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean,
And the highlights. And
yeah.
lowlights.
The clapping for lifting people off food stamps is just cutting 3 million people off of SNAP. Like what? You just cut it.
That 100% registered to me when they said it too. It's just like, wait a minute. And they're doing the same thing, we'll show, but they're doing the same thing in Minnesota with Medicaid cuts. You know, they're like, oh, we're going to look for some corruption. We found some corruption, so we're going to stop the program for 6 months.
They are so repellent. And, you know, the thing that is just how many, like what, Biden kicked 18 million people off of Medicaid. I mean, it's so hard for me to watch the things that he says and to see that most of the leadership, most of the people in Congress are just upset that he does it in such a garish way, that he talks about ending wars or, you know, oh God, I mean, it just went on and on. Now I'm going to have to like look at my stuff because the whole thing was illegal. So he brought on the mother of that young Ukrainian woman, Irina Zaritska, who was killed. And it's right before then they pan over to Ilhan Omar. And it's part of their whole push against these violent, you know, criminal illegals. Like every part of that is wrong and disgusting. The crazy thing is, I mean, she was the young woman who, I mean, it's disgusting and tragic and horrific, was a Ukrainian refugee. She was killed by an American citizen. Like, and he talks about like, oh, it's, you know, we let them in our borders. Like everything was just a lie. And of course, nobody ever fact checks anything at these things, obviously. And, you know, Biden was also filled with lies. I mean, you know, I know that. But to see like, you know, him scolding people for not standing up and telling them how disgusting they are, you really see the mentality of this man who wants everyone to be disciplined and do exactly like just to be mindful of him and obey him and be polite and smile. So much so that the first 20 minutes he was bringing the Olympic hockey gold medal team, just the men, of course, bringing them in as if he were part of that. Like he wasn't out there on the ice playing. He didn't earn that win. It was the craziest thing. And it went on forever. And it was especially repugnant because we had seen the video of Kash Patel chugging beers with them. Yeah. And then the phone call. This is what is he the head of now? The FBI? What's he solved so far? We just got reports, by the way, that the investigation of Charlie Kirk's murder and the Brown University murders were each delayed by at least 24 hours because there are special planes that are FBI planes, and there has to be a certain amount of rest period for the crew, for the pilot, also to just make sure everything's fine with the plane, all of that before it can move. He had been using those planes for his own personal, just like fun travels. I think he was traveling around his country singer wife or whatever. So they had to wait a full 24 hours before they could come to the scene of the Charlie Kirk murder. And then several months later, or a month later, the same thing happened when that professor at Brown was killed. It's crazy, but it's because he's doing things like this. I mean, and then we have a 2.5-minute phone call with the Olympic guys, with Kash Patel holding the phone and Trump telling them how great they are. And he's going to invite them to the White House. And it doesn't matter because they'll fly on his planes. It doesn't matter if the weather's good or whatever. They'll come. And he's like, but I'm just warning you. I'm going to have to invite the women's team also. I'm sorry. And they all fucking laugh. Like,
yeah, so they mock women, and then today they're following up with he brought them all to the White House, and he gives them all McDonald's. So we're running this whole fake health stuff with RFK Jr. And today the Surgeon General was before Congress, and their Surgeon General nominee was before Congress. But you're pimping McDonald's in the White House while you're trying to tell us not to take vaccines and to eat whole healthy foods. There's nothing on earth probably more unhealthy than a goddamn McDonald's burger.
well, glyphosate. Monsanto.
We're bringing glyphosate back.
Yeah, I mean, really so gross. And just because but last show we got blacked out and had to start again, and we lost our super chat mentions, we want to make sure that we get them in there right now. Thank you, Jezen82. Look at what they do, not what they say. I know you wrote that when we were talking about the squad, and we totally agree. And thank you for your membership. 2 Fs. I'm having a nice red wine. Okay, thanks for asking. Bread and butter. What kind of wine is it? I know the label's bread and butter. Is it
bread and butter? Butter makes me think it's a white. Butter.
Oh yeah. It could be like a Chardonnay. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Citizen Video, seeing how MSM gives Mexican dealers flashy names, La Barbie, El Chongo. Let's try our own on Zio, PDS, Howie, Smiley, Letnick, Alex, Batshit, Carp. Yeah, I mean, God, I want to give him something. I don't know if the nickname, but thank you for the super chat.
Absolutely. And it's a Pinot. Okay.
I thought it might be a Pinot because bread and butter, I know only in their Pinots, but I am also drinking a Pinot. Maybe we can get some Norwegians. Trump, too bad you arrested a Norwegian at their immigration hearing and took her diabetic insulin. Oh, logic. Yeah, I know. And thank you for the super chat. So gross. Although I will say that the Norwegian, I think he might have even been, was he an ambassador? He was high up in government. All right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to get everything wrong, but was either just arrested or resigned. Nobody in our country, nothing has happened to anybody except Larry Summers finally resigned from Harvard. Who the hell cares? And Kathy Rumler resigned. But
no, I mean, they were highlighting Lutnick at the State of the Union. They kept showing Lutnick all happy and high-fiving everybody and living a dream.
And now we're not really covering Epstein today. Now we're bobbing and weaving, but they just discovered that there's all of the communications around Trump. Yeah. All of them around him and the woman whom they, got testimony from 4 different times about how she was raped by both him and Epstein when she was 14. All of that's missing. And they know that because all of those files went to, I'm going to say Ghislaine, for her ability with her lawyer to try to figure out how to get her out of jail. I just there is, and so when,
it's
the people
also in our face that they are
so
controlling
disgusting.
And have different rules. And, if we can't pin them down on stuff that we know they've done, like this disgusting Epstein stuff, we can't change their opinion on Israel when everybody's against it, and you'll probably lose your election if you're supporting Israel.
Yeah.
If we're powerless. So that's why we need wins here. We need to hammer these guys on this shit, and it could topple a whole fucking institution, which it would be the best thing to ever happen.
I really, glyphosate with cheese. I am hopeful with the midterms that there will be a few people who are truly on the left who will get in and cause a ruckus. I'm hoping. Because this is unbearable. It is unbearable. We're at a point where there is never the fact that they are not releasing this autopsy, the DNC, is on Kamala's loss, who, by the way, today there's whispers that she's now announcing that she's going to get back in for 2028. And we all know why she lost. That's, first of all, it was released, there was the IMEU polls were done and released in January of 2025. There were staffers working for Kamala and Biden before he dropped out saying, like, you're going to lose these huge portions of your constituency in Michigan, in the Midwest, in swing states, in, like, if you don't take a hard stand against this genocide. They knew it. The populist economic message that they completely abandoned, the fascist border bill, the, cavorting around with Liz Cheney, all of that. We all know what the problem was. So it sort of doesn't even matter that this autopsy hasn't been released. But it's curious.
But it's telling that it hasn't.
Yeah. But like they talked about it in last January, like a year ago. And I'm curious why it's coming back now. Because that's
why the talk of the
wondering what's going on with that.
Even within the Democratic Party leadership and the PR people and the consultant class,
right?
You've got good people that really believe, like, hey, we got to stop fascism. We got, they're 90% are jaded for sure,
right?
But you got people saying, look, we got to face reality, and that's they're not usually in power when they say that, so they leak it. That's your act of rebellion, is leaking strategy documents, I think. But I think you're right in saying that we are going to get a lot of sneaky progressives in. That's going to happen because, like, yes, you can generally outspend your opponent and win races,
right?
But in this issue, there's a lot of room for sleeper, popular, charming, or whatever it may be, whatever your shtick is. If you look authentic, or you speak well and you hold the right positions, you could sneak in and beat all the money in the world in some of these races.
I think so too. And I know the last week when we were talking about Mamdani endorsing Kathy Hochul, just as Anthony Delgado was taking on India Walton, I think she is awesome. I don't know enough about Anthony Delgado except that I think he is to the left of Kathy Hochul, and he's choosing India Walton as his running mate. That seems really unfortunate. But I think that a lot of people who are running now as Democratic Socialists see how the tides have turned against some of the more squad adjacent members, because they haven't brought the ruckus. They haven't been the one-term congressperson that they said they would be and fought the way they are supposed to be fighting. And I think I think the anger from the outside is what will possibly give them permission to hold those people's feet to the fire when and if they get into office.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you are going to get, like, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but 60% are 60% are going to be just milking this as a branding strategy.
Yeah.
40% are going to authentically believe in it. Then of those that win, half of them will sell out and become cozy with the Democratic Party, because every day they go to work, they're with these guys and the pressure is in their face and they have no friends. And, so, yes, I'm not saying this opportunity means let's take over the Democratic Party.
No.
But I'm saying we are going to get some wins out of it that are good leftists that can put a shine a light on this stuff that we can't from the outside. So we're going to get some of those people.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also think that, sorry, I was trying to read and also that. And I also think that what's going to happen is people on the ground, organizers and activists, are going to be energized when they get even a little win, right? So you go out there and between 50 and 100,000 people are knocking on doors for Mamdani and he wins. That energizes them. Now, there are a few things that he does great, and there's a bunch of stuff that we're really upset about, but okay. But what that does for those 50 to 100,000 people is it says, hey, we all pounded the pavement and we beat the machine. we can do that again. That is repeatable. Looking in, and I want to do a whole thing on this tomorrow for our show, because there's all these Unicorn Riot put out this whole manual on next week's actions in Minneapolis, where ICE has not left and they're still getting their heads bashed in. And, we're seeing all over the country, kids just like leaving school to protest and getting their heads bashed in for peaceful protesting. People on the street are furious. And I do think that, so Unicorn Riot is putting out a manual with other activists and organizers about melt the ice, right? Bring the fire, melt the ice. These are the different actions we are going to take. We are going to disrupt their sleep. We're going to put up the cones. We're going to make it difficult for them to maneuver around. And all of these things have a downstream effect to other people feeling like, wait, we do have power. So when we all know each other and we have these calling phone trees and the whistles and we know where to go and who's our next door neighbor, I do think that whether or not what's her face, AOC Pelosi brings the ruckus, becomes less material to the people who have found some power just in camaraderie and organizing and activism. That's my hope.
Absolutely. And it also, it disavows people this belief that you can't run on these lefty things because it's just too left for the country or something, and especially when you do it in the face of all the money, which is the Mamdani effect, is that it showed you put all this money against him, but he had charisma and the right policies, and that's enough against all the money, even in a targeted race where they really went after him.
Yep.
So, couple that with him actually getting a few things accomplished that are left. It shows other cities like, hey, they did it in fucking New York with this big complex system, and I can't do it in fucking Fairfield, California. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely. But as we're saying this, there are like 3 different videos or interviews that came out this week that were all basically Bernie would have won. And now I'm wondering if that's why they are once again talking about the autopsy. Because again, that's not news. But I wonder if because it just feels really interesting to me that the Jennifer Welch, I've had it lady is out there talking about it. Then she's actually on with Don Lemon also talking about it. Then you've got Mark Halperin talking about it. Like, that feels like and maybe like for Mark Halperin, maybe he's just doing it to warn the abundance crowd, like the corporate Democrats, like, you better do something here because there is an energy on the left. Well, all right, let's just.
So I think a lot of it, when you talk about strategist guys like Halperin and whatnot, they're telling you got to run on this stuff. They don't believe in it or want it to happen, but they're like, hey, you're missing the point if you're not running on the Bernie shit. Here we are like 10 years post Bernie, and you haven't gotten the idea that we all know is in that stuff that you got to at least run on this shit. I think that's kind of a piece of it with these guys. They know, because there's a fight within the party of like pitching this other stuff. And, consultants, this consultant group is going to be up against this other consultant group, just like 2 people competing for a contract with the brand. Like, and there's different ways to go with it. That doesn't mean either one of those is better as right. I mean, it doesn't mean either one of them have our interests at heart.
Oh, no.
It's just strategically.
Those people. All right, let's watch this because this is interesting to me. And then the clip with Don Lemon and all right, this is Mark Halperin with Smirkanish.
Rahm Emanuel is a favorite of the consulting class, and a lot of the people I ask are elected officials and consultants, and they like him. They know him personally, and they want someone in that lane. What's kind of extraordinary about the race overall is, with the exception of AOC, there's really nobody who's in that pure Bernie Sanders lane, and that's the lane that I think would have gotten the nomination in 2016 and 2020 if the Democratic Party hadn't rigged it. So nobody in that pure lane, and then there's really nobody in the pure Clinton tell the party hard truths lane, except for Rahm Emanuel. And so part of the reason he's on the list is that's a lane, that's a lane of saying our party needs to move to the center to win, and he can raise money. But I still am skeptical that he can get through a nomination process, given how the base doesn't particularly like him in a lot of cases.
I see overlap. We're going to get to Josh, so we may as well get to him now. I see overlap between a Rahm Emanuel lane, if there is one, and a Josh Shapiro lane.
100% agree. If there's someone on the list who also has that lane, it would be Governor Shapiro. He doesn't tell hard truths to the party as explicitly as Bill Clinton did in 1992 and as Rum did. Implicitly, some of the things he's for are against the base of the party. But you rarely hear the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania say, here's where my party got it wrong and the Republicans were right.
So yes, that case is awesome. We use so many of his clips. So shout out to him for sure. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, that clip just shows you where they're coming at strategically from it. He's pushing those other guys as the rational voices in the party to highlight. Shapiro is not left at all.
No, everybody on there is the same. And what's her face is like the smallest little bit up behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz. And AOC is like 2 steps to the left of them. But everybody else on that list is exactly the same to me. But I thought what was interesting is him saying out loud, Bernie would have won if they hadn't rigged it in 2016 and 2020. They know what the voters want. So now it's how to package those other 7 people in that list, Shapiro, Kamala, Rahm Emanuel, whatever, Gavin Newsom, to make them, who's the one who we can say, oh, he's a real truth teller to people. That's what they're going to get. Like, who's the one who actually tells the truth?
And that's what it is. It's them going out and saying, you know who's been bold? Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has been the one that's telling the party what they need to do to win, even though he's telling you got to go right, basically.
That's all they want to hear.
He's going to be the bold guy. He's going to be the one who took on the autopsy, and he was close with Bernie. He was a Bernie guy back in Bernie land for a while.
Wait, who was?
So Newsom was pushing Medicare for all, one of the earliest governors to push Medicare for all. But he attached himself to that wing until Bernie had competition within the Democratic Party, and then
got it.
Switched his allegiance.
Yeah, I mean, but because this is what Newsom's saying. Like now, 2 years, or what are we? 1 year into this horror show, and he knows why Kamala lost. Like, I don't think he's stupid. I just think he's evil, right? Like, but he knows what the party wants. It's just he doesn't want to be part of this party, and this party doesn't want the left flank. But like, if Democrats listen to their base, who overwhelmingly want all the things we all talk about, just like most of the country, they all know that. They get those poll results before we see them. They know all of it, right?
They know all of it, but on a smaller level locally, for example, when they send in the consultants, if you get a consultant that's really a Democratic stooge, they present third-party think tank kind of polls to people. So they will misrepresent to their own people they're running for, they're helping strategize for, consult for. They'll present them the exact opposite of what's popular in some cases when it comes to healthcare, for example.
And they'll change the wording and how to message it a little better.
Some of those candidates are truly dumb and just craven, narcissists.
Yeah.
So some I'm just saying, I'm pushing back a little bit on I don't think they all actually know. I think most of them.
Yeah.
But it's a balance of like, I got to get the money, and if I push the actual stuff.
Okay. I mean, you might be right. I mean, I think that's probably true when it comes to like Joe Biden. I think they hid from him that he was going to lose by like 400 electoral votes or something, whatever the thing was. But I do think that there's a reason that Gavin Newsom ran on single payer healthcare. Like, he knew what was popular.
Yeah, of course. At that
he knows
level,
when he
vetoes
like worker rights bills that the reason it passed is because it's overwhelmingly popular in his state, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking more of like, I know I know a few candidates that ran on a smaller scale that I know well. And they tell me about these consultants that are just lying to them about popularity.
Yeah.
They're like, Medicare for all is hugely unpopular. And it's because the Democratic Party does some polling and they phrase the questions in a way so that one group that presents the information to this candidate is like, you can't support Medicare for all.
Yeah.
And then they'll do the same thing for the local, the data center. Everybody wants a data center. You got to support the data center.
Yeah. So I guess what I feel like is at least for healthcare now, anytime a poll comes out, we all see what's popular. Anytime a poll comes out about Gaza, we see what's popular. We see Zohar Mamdani's win. We see the, hundreds of thousands of people coming out for Bernie Sanders across the country and his, fight the oligarchy. So I think all of that messaging, and maybe they really are in such a bubble that they don't get it, and they think they just feel like donors give me the most money.
I absolutely think you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just mean on a small,
I hear you.
Level. But all those guys, yes, these guys running for office are looking for excuses to not buck the donors. That's the whole thing. They give me a strategy that lets me run on something that's not bucking the donors. And the donors are the ones that want us to have miserable lives because they're profiting from somehow making our lives miserable.
Exactly. So here is Newsom. This is what he's discovered. He's come to this conclusion a year into Trump's regime.
No doubt that the Democratic Party needs to be, dare I say, more culturally normal. I believe that. Less prone to spending disproportionate amount of time on pronouns, identity, politics. More focused on tabletop issues, things that really matter, the stacking of stress in terms of electricity bills and childcare costs and health care and obviously housing costs. And how easily we get trapped in that, how I've fallen prey to that. I mean, here I was, way out front on marriage equality. So I understand this from both on the receiving end of this and on the...
I mean...
Yeah, he's throwing trans people under the bus 100%.
More
Pronouns
culturally normal? Fuck off. And also, what did she do for trans people? Like, what are they talking about? She didn't do anything for anybody.
Nothing.
She ran to the right of Joe Biden. Like, what are you talking about? At least you pretended to care about police reform or whatever, right?
It feels very much like the Democrats when they gave up the immigration fight. They were just like, oh, the Republicans won this fight, so we got to act like we're very Republican now. He's that like times 10.
Yeah.
And with less integrity even, because he was the first governor to buck the gay marriage in California. He's largely a part of that passing here.
Yep.
And it was unpopular when he did it. So he goes from that to being the sellout against it, because that's what a sleazebag this guy is.
I hate it. I am a never Newsom. I do not even care, whatever. And what tabletop policies is he even talking about? What's he talking about?
The price of eggs, is he gonna trump us here? Eggs are $2, so therefore the whole economy must be good. Let's just not talk about your how much your apartment costs or how much your rent is or your healthcare bill.
None of it. So this, just as a reminder, so this came out this week. Axios scoop. I mean, come on, this is pathetic. Scoop a year and 2 months later. Top Dem officials who worked on the party's still secret autopsy of the 2024 election concluded that Kamala Harris lost significant support because of the Biden administration's approach to the war in Gaza. I mean, they still call it a war, not a genocide. All of this is disgusting, but we all knew that because we all knew anyway. We, for whatever reason, had our finger more on the pulse than the people who are paid to do this. But this study from IMEU was released in January of 2025. So over a year ago. And when Biden 2020 voters who did not vote for Harris in 2024 were asked which one of the following issues was most important in deciding your vote, the one that was the highest was ending Israel's violence in Gaza, 29%. We saw Mamdani on the street in Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens talking to people who had voted for Biden, who did not vote for Kamala, who voted for Trump or just stayed home. And almost to a person, it was because of the war, the genocide. Now I'm saying war. So they know this.
Oh, they do. They do. They know what they can't support, to get the money. It's just the money.
It is so disgusting.
Which just shows, you have to be a true sociopathic narcissist to move up within the Democratic Party.
Yeah. So, because I do think, and like this is the kind of thing that gives me a bit of hope. So last week we showed this clip of Jennifer Welch talking with Hassan Piker, saying like, well, if it's between Newsom and JD Vance, who are you going to vote for? And she was like, I would crawl through glass to vote for the Democrat, not because he's awful, everything about him is awful, but I would crawl through glass because of my love for trans people and how much it's.
And I think it was wasn't it even specifically about crawl through glass or cement to vote for Gavin Newsom? I think it was Gavin Newsom, not just.
So did I say Biden?
No, I think you just said no, but you just didn't. But it was specifically Gavin Newsom who just threw them under the bus right now.
And well, because Hassan said back to her, like, I would vote third party. She's like, really? He's like, look at what he's saying, because he's been on this anti-trans, throw them under the bus. Kamala went too far left, too woke, pronouns. That's like the laugh line for everybody. As soon as any comedian starts talking about pronouns, I turned it up. Like, it's so disgusting. But and that was Hassan Piker's retort to her was, but look what he's doing with trans. Like, look at the way he's talking about trans people. He's completely abandoned them. And then she put out a whole video saying that is true. And she's rethinking things. And she has a huge following. So that is the other part of it, because I think most liberals are scared, liberal voters, like normie Dems. They might talk a big game and they'll sing all the lyrics to Hamilton. And then when it comes time to vote, it's like, well, I got to vote lesser evil 99% Hitler because we can't get this. And that mentality, obviously, I know we all know, is what's gotten us here, is that lesser evil voting, the vote blue no matter who, has gotten us right here. I think there are still a few older Democrats who do not understand that. I think anybody under 50 or 60 is really cluing in. And this lady is a lib wine mom, and she's getting it. And she's got millions of followers.
I voted for Hillary in the 2016 election because I bought into some of the corporate media that Bernie was too radical. There's nothing radical about what Bernie was saying. Nothing. His policies and what he's been saying since the 80s has aged beautifully, because he was sending out a warning. If we do not do this, we are going to open ourselves up to fascism. And he was very clear-eyed on it. And these billionaires act like they're so oppressed. I mean, if you get on Elon Musk's Twitter feed, you guys, it's like he is the most oppressed trillionaire on the planet. It's pathetic.
But I wonder what happens when it's Newsom in the end, when it's Newsom versus what's his face, JD Vance.
Yeah, and that's, she is so in the same sphere as the people like my parents, for example, who they will buy into everything. They're like, yes, this system is broken, that's broken, but you're going to vote for Newsom, right?
Nope.
Once it comes to it.
Telling you right now,
can't do that.
Never voting Newsom. I will never. Yep. Okay, so this. Wait, I know we're bebopping all over the place. We are bebopping. Do we want to go back to any of the State of the Union stuff?
Honestly, none of it was very interesting.
It was so not interesting.
Clash. I mean, to me, what's his name? Who had the sign that said "Black people are not apes"? I mean, that was the most powerful moment of the whole thing.
Al Green, yeah. And I did think, like, the disgusting way that Trump said the Somali people who are all criminals, and then the camera pans to her. It was just so revolting. And I know we always have this sort of, not a debate between the two of us, but the discussion of like, is it better to be a lifelong racist piece of shit like Joe Biden, but just have a slight veneer of kindness when you're responsible for locking huge numbers of Black and brown community in cages for minor offenses, less than what your son did, for sure, and helping push us into the Iraq war, which killed 1 million Iraqis? Like, is it better to be a polite racist or just an unabashed racist? I mean, they both suck, but like, that's where we are, and I don't know, but watching her face
Well, yeah,
was
but
really hard.
if you're in the place we're at, which is you recognize no change is going to happen from within the system,
Yeah.
then you need to recognize your enemy. That is the most important thing.
Thank you.
And under Democrats, too many people don't recognize their enemy.
Yeah.
And so you may even donate to this guy who's the fucking worst person on earth, racist bastard who has policies that are going to harm more than the racist out in the street.
Yep.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, at least acknowledging the situation as reality, whether they come around and vote or not, we have to get everybody to that point of
Right.
like, look what the Democratic harm does.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, look at, the one bipartisan moment was Trump talking about getting rid of Iran. And he lied about everything. We all know he's lying. How do the people in Congress, of course they must know, they just are all jonesing to bomb Iran.
Yeah.
And he lies about it, says that we obliterated their nuclear facilities back in whenever that was, August or something. We obliterated it, but now they're a week away.
Can't be true.
Yeah.
They can't be
wasn't even
almost on
true.
the verge of nukes.
Yeah.
If we had that whole thing.
And it wasn't even then they knew that they were years away. They've also said explicitly, I think even just either today or yesterday, they do not want nuclear weapons. But of course they're not going to get rid of ballistic missiles. Of course. How would they do that? Like, Israel can't win a war. It's waging a 7-front war. Oh, and the 8th one is the media. They've killed more journalists than any other, and than all the other war-torn countries combined. And they still need the complete disarming of Hamas and the complete disarming of Iran and Hezbollah, and maybe try negotiating and diplomacy and not just always being the biggest bully on the block. Like, it's so disgusting, but there they all are standing up. And so was Liz Warren. Of course she was standing up. That was the bipartisan clap for me moment.
Yeah, Warren stood up about Iran,
Of course.
Just absolutely disgusting. She's a snake. Well, we don't need to get into her much, but I did think it was interesting. I read the entire fact check on the State of the Union from CBS.
Okay.
And CBS is pulling one of those fake things they did against Bernie, not that CBS did, but that PolitiFact, when they would fact check Bernie.
Yeah. Glenn Kessler or whatever. Yeah.
So everything that was a lie that Trump said, they're like, misleading.
Right.
It's just a little misleading.
Yeah.
So they softened every false statement that they called out in their fact check. And it's just because CBS is kissing his ass. We can't trust anything, you know?
Yep. Well, and I just, to go back to Oliver Larkin, who was here earlier, saying, like, actually calling people out by name in the Democratic Party, it is vital. Like, if we don't do that, because I'm not on the same team as Jeffries. And, when, what's her name? AOC first came into Congress, she was like, yeah, in Europe, we wouldn't be in the same party. I wouldn't be in the same party as Biden. But then she endorses him.
Fast forward a couple years, Mama Pelosi,
no
call
primary.
out your enemies by name.
Yeah. You got
Make an enemy by name, not just some vague sort of neoliberal part of my party. Like, no, it's that guy over there.
Yeah.
This guy I ran against, that shithead over there. He's owned by big pharma. He's owned by,
like the NASCAR thing, who's giving you money, which is again why the fact that the Democratic Party chose Abigail Spanberger to be, because last year wasn't it Alyssa Slotkin?
Yeah, and in her, like, right out the gate, she's like, I was a cop. I loved being a cop, and then I became CIA. And you're like, read the room, lady. Like, that's who the Democrats chose.
Yeah.
And I guarantee her speech wasn't put together by her. This is the Democratic Party propaganda apparatus putting out there.
Yep.
Our party is the party of cops and the CIA.
We're gonna have the deadliest, most lethal. We're gonna go after our enemies. All that bullshit that Kamala said. So gross. All right, we only have one more thing over here with the Oh, no, this is important, though, is that this was also released that Democrats are working behind the scenes to stop a vote on the Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, Iran War Powers resolution that would force every member of Congress to go on the record over Trump's potential regime change war because they want that war. They want that war. So it's all going to be about process, procedure, but they still don't even want to do that because it might hold it up. And so they don't even want to be on the record for it.
No, what they want is the ability to say Trump is not following the Constitution. He's not asking us. What we'd want is you to ask us, but they don't even want to limit him to making them ask them, because then they can run against it as him being the constitutional violator, the fascist. Exactly. So they're enabling the fascism by not, and they're trying to kill the vote. I mean, what the fuck?
It's just gross. Okay, before we move on, do we want to talk about the New York City snow fights? Or do we want to
let's
spin?
I think we spin the wheel and then come back with the snow fights, because we have extended joy tonight.
All right, that's good. Okay.
Joy.
We need a little joy.
Yeah, baby.
And I gotta go to the bathroom.
I knew there was an ulterior motive.
Really getting at it.
I got my whole bottle right here. 1 second. All right, one sec.
Yeah, baby.
There we go.
No, you landed on booze again.
Oh, no way. I thought I landed on LOL. Oh, my God. I was going to do the Jeffries fighting for us.
Oh, fuck it. Do it. Let's do it.
Just do that one, and that way you can go to the bathroom. All right.
Absolutely.
Here we go.
I love watching your TikTok, which is next level. Clearly, that's expressed by my 13-year-old son.
No, God, please, no, no.
Trump wants to nationalize midterm elections so he can steal them? Get lost. We're not going to let that happen. We are deeply disappointed by Trump's recent decision to nationalize midterm elections. Yeah, it's weird. Like we said, no. But then he did it. And so it's like, kind of out of our hands now. We urge him, now's the time for leadership. We're willing to work towards a bipartisan solution. Like, instead of all Democrat votes counting for 0, they can count for like 1/2 or something. I want to know that if elected, Democrats will be even tougher on election integrity. And we'll make Democrat votes count for 1/4 of what they would normally count. We'll have the strongest, most deadly military. Also, yeah, well, we're better Republicans. We're like Republicans, but better. We're better. We can do that too. We're asking Trump to stop killing all Democrats in the streets. No? Okay, well, just think about it. Just think about it, please. Adolf, now's the time for leadership. Also, can I have $5, please?
Oh, you got back so fast. It was a pretty short one. That's Spencer Earl, but that's pretty much, that's another one that's like sort of funny, but also it's way too on point because that's exactly what's happening. Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, we're about to get hit because the midterms are here with it's not $5, folks. It's just not $5. It's folksy emails that are going to say, folks, fascism is on the line. Democracy is on the line.
But for the people who got us here.
Yeah, $17. Can your monthly $5? Can you save a dog that's starving? We're going to get bombarded with it.
Yeah, all day long. That's all I get from all of these different, vertical super PACs, like who are the consultants, but they're also running the thing. And like, really, you're like, did you see that? And you're not gonna give us money? We're talking to you, Lila.
Did you see that Crockett thing where she snapped hard at Trump, and we need fighters like her, and that no policy mentions whatsoever. But we need these fighters.
So the one that we didn't show, and it's pretty much the same, but it was Don Lemon is on with the I've Had It woman, and he talks about Bernie and AOC, and then he's like, we need more of these left members like Bernie and AOC and Jasmine Crockett, and you're just like,
Do you not know who you were for the last 10 years on TV?
Yeah. Okay. So there is a lot of snow, and I'm hoping, well, this I don't know if it has volume or not, but I hope we don't run into this problem again. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, there is a lot of fun to be had in New York in the snowball fights, and it's pretty awesome to see the glee with which people are participating, especially when the people on the opposite side are cops.
You love to see it.
Awesome. And those cops are feeling a little nervous. I mean, there's like throngs of people behind them. So much so that there was like, the like Israel in New York, whatever, Democratic.
There's a whole police force that's like government funded. That's Israeli police forces to protect the Jewish interests. What in the world is that?
Crazy. And they're all putting out these, tweets and pleas for, criminalizing snow fighting and snow fights. So Mamdani was asked about it at his latest little press conference.
Would you consider banning these crowdsourcing events because they can and sometimes do get out of hand?
So I'm not going to be banning snowball fights or organized snowball fights. I've shared my thoughts with New Yorkers, and I continue to believe that what we are seeing in this response to this winter blizzard from the city workers as a whole, and that includes the hardworking men and women of the NYPD, is part of why the city's getting back on its feet, and I'm appreciative of that work.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Julie, we have to move on. Yeah. Annie, go ahead right here, and then we're going to go to Jeff.
I just love I love that he kept calling it snowball fights,
minimizing it.
Yeah, like how
you little crybaby.
Pathetic are you all? It's so ridiculous.
And there are some real high-powered Republicans out here acting like this was like somebody got Luigi'd by a snowball or something.
Yeah, it's insane. It's really funny also to see how much they are despised by everybody. And also, there is something where they're this whole voting act, the Saves Act, where they're trying to make it more difficult for voters they have to come with either a real ID or two forms of, like a passport and a real ID driver's license or whatever. And Mamdani put out a notice calling for anybody who wants to come help shovel the sidewalks, but you had to come with two forms of ID for $30 an hour to get paid, right? That's what it's for. And so they're trying to make an equivalency between that. Like, why can, Mamdani asked for it for just to shovel snow, but then you want it to, but you think it's too much of a hurdle to jump over to have it to vote. Meanwhile, we know that there's a 0.00001% record of fraudulent voting, actually, by people, like actual people committing fraud by voting. But the other thing is they will then close the passport offices, right? So it's two-pronged. It's not the Republicans who want to suppress the vote. And by the way, Democrats, of course, do this the same way. They mire, the Green Party in lawfare. They scrubbed 200,000 people in Brooklyn from the rolls in 2016 in the primaries. They do all of the same shit against their left flank. So they're all despicable. But it actually worked. People were out there shoveling the snow. And that was also there is something so nice about, and again, I have a lot of criticisms, but there's something so nice about bringing people out into the street. It's very reminiscent of what we were always told about JFK, right? What will you do for your country? Yes, we need to do something for you, but we're all part of this together. And I'm really digging it.
I 1,000,000% love that he did that too.
Yeah.
It's look, if you tried to go with the government as we have it now program, emergency, clean the streets or something, it would cost so much more money to the state anyway. So it's almost like a case for socialism.
Yeah.
It's just like, here you go. We all did this ourselves pretty much.
Yeah.
We didn't need to hire a private snow company.
Oh my God. Yeah. Our friend, the Cuomo cousin who's going to come out here and, get his firm to do it.
But back to the SAVE Act. Look, the SAVE Act is designed basically to suppress poor people and people that mostly poor people, honestly, but it's minorities as well.
Yeah.
Because of poverty, right? That's what it is. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a compromise from the Democrats on it, because they also don't want poor people voting as much. Let's be honest. It helps them, because if their constituents that they need to target to vote for agree with the economic interests of the middle class and higher, that benefits them. So like they could throw this away too.
Oh, I have no doubt that they will find a way to thread the needle so that it makes it more difficult for people who would vote for economic populism to vote.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And apparently the group that it will hurt the most are married women who change their names and don't have their new name, and they need proof of all of that.
Yeah, the whole real ID part, that's the hardest part. And Republicans love to disenfranchise women because, that's a big group that is like, hey, we disagree on abortion. We think you shouldn't be quite as cruel to the immigrants. There's a little,
look at how
women
they
have more humanity. Let's be honest.
I mean, I don't want to say that, because honestly, women came out to vote for Trump at the highest levels of any group. I think even white men, they were the highest group, I think. I might be wrong on that, but they were certainly well represented in the Trump vote. But I hear you. The way that Trump laughed about having to invite the women's
women over,
and then all of those guys cackled along with him. It's just like rape mentality. It really is. Like, whatever I want, I should get, and if you stand in my way, you don't get to vote. Okay. Are we moving on to what?
Yes. Let's try the cheers. I was only able to add 20% boost to the volume.
Oh, that's not going to do it, but let's give it a shot.
I don't know. We're going to know right away. You guys tell me if we should play it or not. But here's the snow guy getting interviewed who brought up the real problem and wouldn't let it off. Wouldn't drop it.
Looking at now that we're seeing
there's still people out in doorways looking for shelter, and I think a lot of people think this is why we shouldn't allow hedge funds to own residential property.
And so what we were talking about earlier too is a little bit of the nostalgia aspect, right? How this feels kind of like back in the 90s when we were growing up.
Yeah, like we were saying, it was much more snow, cooler winters. And again, private equity didn't own so much of the housing stock in America.
Thank you so much, Kaj. We want to.
I mean, cut. Like the way she's listening to the noise in her ear to, let's get right back. I love that message discipline.
Yeah.
And then there was,
and when she brought up the 90s, it's like, you're bringing up like, oh yeah, remember you used to live in a blue house. Yeah, the thing about blue houses, there's this company in the hedge fund named Blue.
Yeah.
He was just not leaving it, and that's the way you deal with these fucking people. Well,
was it Obama's economics guy, Jason Furman? I think that's his name.
I don't remember.
But he was on Twitter like, this guy doesn't know the difference between a hedge fund and a private equity, and he's putting it all together. And he did like the whole well actually kind of bullshit on that. Like,
oh my God.
Actually, I don't care. They all suck. I don't even care why each one sucks in his own lane. That guy's right and you're wrong. And you're sitting here. It's like the people are like, actually, Democrats really need to. It's like, oh my God. But he was
private equity, but then
he said hedge fund and private equity.
No, I know, but I get the hedge fund part of it too. You can make it anyway.
All of it. It doesn't matter. Just evil. Like whatever way these people are amassing money. It's like, when people say like, well, no, that money was allocated for a war. It would never go to healthcare anyway. It's like the point.
We're having a bigger discussion about priorities.
Yeah. Or like
AOC
saying like, oh no, it's a defensive
private equity.
Weapon. Yeah. Like, oh, it's going for a defensive weapon. Great. Then that means they don't, if we're covering their Iron Dome, then they have more money to spend on their offensive weapons. Like whatever it is, on some level, it's all the same evil, right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we should go back to a few wonderful super chats. Based Pat, getting Huckabee fired would be a real life victory. So it would be forcing Trump to allow foreign journalists in Gaza. We need a flotilla now. We do. I know they're putting together another flotilla. I mean, there's one for Cuba, also another one for Gaza. And just before we went on, I think CNN, I think Nick Roberts just got into Gaza and is talking about the horrifying conditions. You know, rats are swimming into tents. There's sewage everywhere. Tents are floating away. They have reduced the number of trucks from a measly 25 down to 5. But this is CNN that got into Gaza. We'll have to pull it to show tomorrow. But I mean, we're 2.5 years into this and everything's only getting worse and worse and worse. And there's even less media talk about it. So, you know, on mainstream media. So I am, grateful if it opens up anybody's minds, but we really can't let it go because it's horrifying, but also because then they're just they're getting away with it. They're bulldozing everything so that there's no crime scene left. Those medics that it happened a year ago, but the report just came out about the I don't have it, but there were 900 bullets fired against a medical emergency services who were coming to rescue people. And it was the one where the young man said, "Mom, please forgive me, but I'm just trying to save people's lives." It was caught on his phone. He was recording it. She wasn't on the phone with him, but recording it. They killed him and his whole crew. Then they buried the bodies and the ambulances that they were in. And those have just been excavated. And so they found even more evidence. But that's the plan, is to completely destroy the scene of the crime so that they can build, the Gaza Mediterranean or whatever.
It is. And, I think it was last week, we didn't cover it, but there was a BBC report that came out saying, something like 100 proven targeted shots to the head of children in Palestine, to where this was clearly not a stray bullet. This was a targeted assassination of kids.
Heads, hearts, testicles.
Yeah, exactly. And then the story, though, because it's BBC, was fact checked to being well, no, really, it's only 60, kind of thing. But
God,
just the evil is just ongoing. That's what we need to know.
Truly. We had shady consultants like that infiltrate some of the campaigns I advised and try to water them down. Found out later they were DNC. I am sure. Wow. We need to hear all the inside stories from you, Zainab. And thank you for the super chat. I know you had to deal with some really, really Weasley people who did a lot of damage. Thank you. Slotkin eats corn. Thank you, Jezen. Thanks, you guys. That's very funny. And thank you for the gifted memberships. Thank you.
I didn't need to take that off. Sorry.
Yeah. That. Oh, geez. All right. What time is it? Oh, I know. It's Trump time.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
It's like Joan Rivers doing QVC commercials now.
No, he's returning to his roots.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, I've seen a lot of these. The Trump Bible is a thing that they'll show commercials for all the time on OAN, for example, because I love watching OAN.
That's your favorite. Yeah.
I do watch OAN. It's always either My Pillow or something Trump is pimping.
Oh my God.
Those are the two commercials they show the most. But here, like, this is the emoluments clause. You are not allowed to sell products using your office. It's just so clearly grifting.
But like nobody's ever actually enforced anything. There is never any consequence. Nobody ever holds these people accountable. It's really despicable. I know we're bopping around, but I felt like, this just happened recently, the California Democratic Progressive Caucus. This is Dr. Feroz Sidwa, and he's so great, but he's calling out the Democratic Party, especially in light of, this autopsy not being shown, nobody really coming out vociferously against what's happening that we are a part of, that Biden and Harris oversaw with Blinken and all of these ghouls, that's only been continued and now just like, brushed under the rug for Trump's peace process. And I think that idea of like naming names and not letting people off the hook, like this is not, now it's Trump's genocide, right? Now it's Trump's disgusting, but he would not have gotten here if it weren't for the Democratic Party. I never thought that they would be the party of genocide. I mean, I knew they were bad. Obviously, you let 70,000 people die every year from lack of health care, you're fine with anybody dying. You kill 800,000 people because you want to get back to normal, the urgency of normal, the economy is back up and running.
I think,
yeah.
Well, for me, what the genocide really exposed is how craven they are. And like, I think I was under the illusion that optics would affect their strategy on some level more than it did. Like, because their brand is the kind, gentle, like, so it's so against their brand to be this counter to reality, like openly, like, yes, behind the scenes, yes, but like they used to have to pretend to say the right shit, and now they're just like, no, we're gonna ignore polls. What you saw wasn't true. Israel has a right to exist.
Yeah, lied right to our face, which is why it's why like it doesn't hold any weight when they talk about Trump's lies, because they weren't calling out Biden on his lies. They were lying to us, right? And now they're all admitting it so they can sell their books. Like, what's the guy who looks a lot like Jason Miller? Matt Miller. He talks about how, we knew, but we couldn't call out Israel because it would have stymied the whole peace process. Well, there was no peace process. Just stop sending them weapons. I can't believe that we are in this 2.5 years later, and like every night. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, but none of the people that ever come out and speak the truth are in politics anymore. And they're not, they've made their money basically. So, or, they're selling a book. This guy's where's his out? He could go work for some weapon maker probably, but he's probably got all this guilt. He's been eating shit on the press, in front of the press forever. So he's like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to tell something. I'm going to get rich anyway.
Yep.
I can sleep at night now.
Yeah. He thinks he can sleep at night. He should never sleep again for the rest of his life.
Or he should go to sleep immediately. And we never.
I want it to be long and painful and humiliating for all of these people. They don't deserve to have a peaceful, like they really don't. They really don't. So this is Dr. Feroz Sidwa speaking just a couple days ago to the California Democratic Progressive Caucus.
Yeah. But I'm actually here because of what I saw in the Gaza Strip while I was volunteering there twice as a trauma and general surgeon. What I saw really can't be described briefly, and quite frankly, the hundreds of U.S. healthcare workers who've worked in Gaza, and we've all come back and described what we saw for more than 2 years. We described what we saw in Gaza, the widespread shooting of small children in the head and the chest, imposed starvation, the destruction of hospitals, the destruction of our healthcare colleagues, and treating children as young as 5 who said that they wanted to die. We described an assault on motherhood, on childhood, seemingly on life itself. And being in Gaza, we really felt like we were witnessing a prelude to the end of humanity. We can blame the Israelis for committing genocide in Gaza all we want, but the fact of the matter is we committed genocide in Gaza. In Gaza, we Americans provided all of the most important weapons, the diplomatic cover at the United Nations, the financial support, and the logistical support. American airplanes burned American jet fuel to drop American bombs outfitted with American guidance systems on targets identified with AI software from American corporations, many of them here in the Bay Area, incidentally. The pilots might have spoken Hebrew, but the machinery of death's first language is English. Every relevant authority in the world recognizes that Israel, using its vast American arsenal and protection on the world stage, is committing genocide in Gaza. But the most sensible estimate based on what we know is that we killed about 215,000 people. That's 10% of Gaza's population, and it includes a shocking 70,000 children. Someone will argue that acknowledging that we committed genocide in Gaza will offend our Jewish brothers and sisters. But I'm sure there are many in this room who feel offended just by that suggestion. Acknowledging what we have done in Gaza and facing the truth head on will not be easy, just as it hasn't been easy facing these things on here. Miramar Martinez, Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and many others have faced the truth and were inspired to act and paid quite a price for it. A friend of mine and a co-volunteer in Gaza, Dr. Adam Hamawi, is running for Congress right now for the same reasons and discovering just how high the wall keeping decent people out of power has been built. Well, facing the truth will hurt, but we can't vault over that wall without a strong moral foundation to jump from. Facing the truth will reveal that some of the people you thought had normal human values are actually monsters. Good. That's exactly the point. Let's figure out who wants to make the world a better place, and then let's go do it.
I love him.
I love that. Love that. So good.
Cheers to him. I love him.
I mean, and I think the public largely gets that. They're like, Israel is not just, it's not just about Israel. It shows who you are.
Yeah. That
you would come out in the public and we see your support for something that we all know is bullshit. Everybody knows it's bullshit. Everybody knows you're bought and paid for to have this position that is fucking violent and killing people. And Democrats aren't even like fighting for a kinder genocide anymore.
Nope.
There's just no talk of it whatsoever from Democrats. They want it to go away. They want to pretend they can run in the midterms and not be on the wrong side of history. But we got to prove that they're wrong. And anyone supporting Israel is not getting a vote. You got moderates out there saying, I'm not going to vote for anyone supporting Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Feroz Sidhwa is the name, Sidhwa. Yeah. And I think that last bit is we never get over the hump if we don't call out the people who are monsters. They're not good people. And I will take, we both will take this to Medicare for all. Like, Democrats sat back and said, we are fine with 70,000 people dying of preventable deaths every year. We're fine with that because that's what our donors wanted to say. It's too complicated. That's it. So it's not a big leap then to get the economy back up and running. We're going to take away all the OSHA protections. We're going to rip off those masks. We're going to force everybody back to work. No more paid sick days. And look at that. We got the economy back up and running. And that was only 800,000 people.
You know what's good for the economy? Asbestos and glyphosate.
Right? So like, I don't want to hear about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from those people who didn't call out Biden and Harris.
Well, I was just going to say, we have a perfect example of why you have to call these people out and you have to make them pariahs in the world. The Iraq war was presented even to the public on TV every day as such a stigma that nobody who voted for the Iraq war would go any further in politics forever. And then it all got whitewashed and we got Joe Biden. And the consequence of Joe Biden is Iraq, is Israel, and is Trump.
Yep, absolutely. And the consequence of Obama not doing what he ran on, which was making the people who got us into the Iraq war based on a lie, torture, war crimes, not making them pay anything, and instead giving them a hug and a cough drop because we're moving forward. That's also what got us Trump. Like, you can't live in a world. You have to look backwards so you know how to prevent the bad going forward.
Yeah, this is not the finals of the NBA where the guy who's elbowed you in the chin lost the war. So you're like, nah, we got to let it go.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
No, you have to prevent this evil from being a part of our government.
Yes.
It's different than just saying we won, but that's how these people look at it. They look at it like
team sports.
It's just games. It's games shit.
Because they all do the same thing, but just who gets to sit on the crown this time, or sit on the throne this time. Yeah, and I mean, and I am seeing this absolutely. They are spraying chemical weapons on farmland in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Jordan. I mean, nobody does anything. That's a war crime.
Well, maybe that's why RFK Jr. is making it to, he's the pro glyphosate guy who's saying it's not really glyphosate that's the problem anymore. It's not glyphosate. It was never glyphosate. It's never Roundup. Roundup is good. It's just, you know, but maybe that's the
order. Executive order. I mean, all of the look at Strike. You know, all of these data centers, not only are they poisoning the air, the water, stealing our electricity and our resources, they also put out this like humming sound that is giving people, you know, like crazy issues with sleep and even just like mental sanity, like to have that as a constant hum. But people are really working very hard. That clip that we showed of the guy in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and the group of people that he organized with, and they got the data center shut down, that's going viral. And people are trying to do that all over the country now because those data centers are dangerous. And Trump even, I mean, he's not going to do anything about it. Of course, there's no policy to match his words. But I do think even just saying like, they're going to have to create their own power grids. Of course, that's never going to happen. There's going to be absolutely no, you know, enforcement of anything. But it is very clear right now that anybody who actually wants to win and represent the people needs to be anti-AIPAC, anti-ICE, anti-AI. Like all of these things are truly resonating with people. Like they understand now how much the ruling class, the Epstein class, hates us. You know,
they do. They're just so clearly trying to pretend these aren't issues and coming up with a strategy to try to work around, you know, what the public wants. Like, oh, it's abundance. It's not really, you know, it's not really the price of your rent. It's not really the lack of jobs. Abundance also paves the way for AI. It's like, you know, if you just let AI, if we just approve more of this AI, then you won't have to worry about your retirement somehow. That's a new fucking piece of rhetoric out there.
Yeah.
Like you know, yeah, that might be true. So let's say that's true, that AI could actually make it to where half these jobs we don't need. Okay. But you haven't provided any plan for how we still pay our rent when the jobs are gone for half the people losing their jobs. So, but they want us to get ahead of it and just let AI go. Meanwhile, AI is like, first thing I'm gonna do is nuke you guys.
Well, there's this battle now, right, with Anthropic and Hegseth, where which is first of all, it's crazy because why did you like? I honestly like Anthropic. It's a little, it's wildly disingenuous, to pretend that like you thought that having a contract with the government, with the CIA or whatever it was not going to be used for something nefarious. So their Claude. Wait, are they Claude? They're one of whatever was used in the kidnapping of Maduro. So now they're having this whole back and forth, and Hegseth is threatening them both to like blacklist them, but also to take over like government control and force them to produce to continue in the contract. Hegseth gave Anthropic till Friday to lift all restrictions on how the military uses Claude. Like, how did they think the military was going to use Claude? For peace? For diplomacy? What are you talking about? His threat, invoking the Defense Production Act to force Dario's hand or else blacklisting Claude. Meeting was not warm and fuzzy. I mean, you have a contract with the Department of War. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But also it's telling that the things they're publicly asking for, the military won't agree to. Which is very little, like not the I mean, there's like 2 constraints that they want put on their contract. It's like that AI can't autonomously make decisions on a high level or something. It's like, it's just basic, like, hey, can we guarantee 2 layers of not being Terminator shit?
Little bit of regulation.
And the government is like, no, that's too much, buddy.
Yep. There's a couple of crazy clips. The guy who told us that, where is he? Oh, Sam Altman. So Sam Altman has a crazy past. There are lots of allegations against him by his sister. I don't know what's going on, but he is the OpenAI guy. He and Elon Musk have had a long time feud, but he in OpenAI was trying at one point to position himself as the, public open AI, more communal friendly billion-dollar tech corporation. And I think he gave the game away when he said that AI would be replacing all the jobs and we'd have to come up with a new social contract, but we're not really sure what that's going to be, but we're just going to plow ahead. We'll figure that shit out later because he's going to be fine. Like, he's a billionaire. Now he's trying to explain why it makes you have a better return on investment training AI than training a human.
One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life.
So we're announcing.
Shit. I did that.
Did you do that?
I did. I was trying to add some other videos, but I hit it scrolled because I think you deleted a video and then it just
sorry, yeah. I was trying to anyway,
let's start it over.
All right. It's only
let's start it over.
One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart. And not only that, it took like the very widespread evolution of the 100 billion people that have ever lived and learned not to get eaten by predators and learned how to like figure out science and whatever to produce you, and then you took whatever you took. So the fair comparison is if you ask ChatGPT a question, how much energy does it take once its model is trained to answer that question versus a human? And probably AI has already caught up on an energy efficiency basis measured that way.
So again, it's like this whole class of people who only sees us as net positive, net negative in their bank account, right? Like that's all a human is worth.
Right. So first off, his math is wildly wrong, right? So just on his, if you take his argument and that's what matters is how much water it took to come to this point, that's massively wrong. Like somebody did a whole thing on it. It's just way the fuck off.
Right.
But the bigger picture is, okay, you're taking water away from a fucking person.
But how much data can that person give me?
Because the data and the answer is not more important than the person drinking water. Like,
well, how are you coming to that conclusion?
To drink water, yes, because they're a human being, and this is the piece they're missing.
I mean, like they really, which is why they want to replace workers. Workers are messy. They organize, they get sick, they have requirements. They might not like what you pay them. They might not agree with you, like whatever it is. And like they hate democracy. They do not want input from anybody.
They don't.
It's just crazy. Yeah. It's all about money. That's it. We are you're either on the red ledger or the black ledger, and that's how they see humanity. And then Dario Amodi or whatever was talking about like autonomous drones and how close we are to that. I mean, we didn't cover this, but there was I think ChatGPT or Claude, I don't remember, but she was programming it, gave her AI bot, whatever, her friend, I don't know, told it to clean up her email, but gave it a very specific direction not to delete anything, just to like section things off. Do not delete anything or figure out a different task from the specific task I gave you without asking me. And then she starts watching and it's like, okay, delete everything from that came into your inbox from before 2 weeks ago. And she writes explicitly, do not do that. And it just keeps doing it. Stop. She actually, and then she says, I had to go over and shut it down like I was dealing with a ticking bomb. And if you imagine, that's just to clean up your email. That's not something you already programmed to say, this is the enemy. We got to get rid of all the terrorists, because now it's got way more like cleanup. Okay, that can have a few different.
Yeah, it went
meanings.
from a kind agenda and on its own decided to do something evil, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's cleaning up. Like I could understand how that could be interpreted as cleaning up. What it didn't do was follow the order of ask me first, right? Because that's communication. That is the human part of all of these. Any task, any job, any interaction is like, wait, I want to understand exactly what you said when you said that. Like, and you get that extra chance to have a conversation and your human instincts or thoughts or your history of how people's minds work and then your interaction with people. And so you can follow through and be like, is this exactly what you meant? Because this is what there's none of that. It's just a computer. It's not intelligent.
Absolutely. And all these, every time they stress test an AI to see if it'll go too far, it goes too far. Like every single instance. There is no instance where they don't. Did you hear about the Roomba guy? The Roomba, the thing?
No.
Roomba, the little portable vac. I don't know if it was Roomba. It was one of the portable vacuum things.
Right.
And he had one and he just wanted to control it to do some other shit. So he's like, let me go to there's an AI code making thing.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, let me figure out AI code thing, figure out how I can control my Roomba, and he's not like a total neophyte like us. He's a tech guy.
Right.
But he was able to tell that thing to do it with his prompt. And it ended up giving him access to 10,000 people's Roombas, just so it wasn't just his.
Yeah.
The code from this thing, he said, AI, do it. And it's like, so imagine some malicious coming in and saying, hey, AI that's running everybody's like electricity or whatever.
Yep.
We're going to turn on all the electricity and then AI water system, flood the house.
That's why, like all of those smart home things, we don't have any of that. I mean, we used to have, Josh wanted Alexa or whatever, and we turned all of that off, unplugged it. I hate all of that stuff because Roomba is even like that. But that whole idea of labeling people a terrorist so that you can get them on the pre-crime that you think that maybe they're thinking about. That is what will be optimized with all of this. And they're already, I mean, you see the way like all these ICE agents are behaving.
And honestly, the way, if AI just learns from history and how the government treats people, it will on its own classify marginalized people as lesser than other people. It will come to that conclusion because our government those are the choices we've made through history to treat these people less. So it will find ways. It will criminalize them early.
Yep.
And it's just that's where we're headed, and they love it. If you're either in the government or private prison industry or whatever, this is the people in power that have money that are buying politicians want all this shit.
They really do, because as gross as they might every once in a while say that the Sam Altmans and Peter Thiels and Alex Karps are, on some level, capitalists see us all with price tags. And are we a net gain or a net loss? And if you're a net loss, you're kind of anti-capitalist. And if you're anti-capitalist, you're kind of anti-American. And if you're anti-American, you're kind of a domestic violent extremist. And then you're a terrorist. If you it goes that quickly. We've seen it. Like, look at how quickly they have made that leap for all of us.
Well, yeah. And we're going to be so quickly risky violent extremists even if we never act on it. Right. So these AI systems will say, oh, Speaker Johnson is having a rally. And then they'll automatically know who's going to the rally because we left our house. My AT&T Wi-Fi knows that I left my house because it's already monitoring, bouncing around. It can do a thermal. It could tell me your Wi-Fi can tell you I'm sitting at a computer over in this corner of my room. Right. So that's how they already have that surveillance in place now. Right. Then they know you're going to this thing. Then they saw your last tweet and now you're close. Oh, you stopped at a Target that sells guns. So you're a risk. We can detain you for a while at least until we figure out what's going on here. And that's just the benign guy who's just going to a rally. And, maybe the congressman just doesn't want you there because of your political views and you're going to hold up a protest sign. Well, this is the way they clean these things up. You're not going to be there with your protest sign. So less voice for all of us.
I mean, we see that, there was the article about how AIPAC and ADL are doing that to target Christian fundamentalists who are Zionists or who could possibly be Zionists at different churches, right? They're doing those geolocators on people's phones because they have spyware on all of our phones. It's not even a back end one anymore. They can do a front end one. We saw that on that LinkedIn profile of those people who work for, oh God, it was 2 weeks ago that we did that. But, and you could see on their LinkedIn profile that they had up somebody's phone and you could see all of the different people, the different friend groups and that they are already at that point. And that's people doing that. I mean, yes, they're using technology, but yeah, as soon as they optimize that and really do a mass scale it up to whole populations, that's like a press of a button.
Yeah. And there's two parts to it. There's one that you don't want the AI making decisions based on this data.
Right.
Right. Because they're over and over again, it ends in a bad way for humans. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one piece. But the other piece is even if someone's overseeing this stuff, the surveillance itself falls into the hands of the people overseeing it who have nefarious motives and we have no check on it whatsoever. Which is why, back to Snowden days, that's why we appreciate and need these whistleblowers.
Thanks, Obama. Yeah.
Right.
Yep, exactly. And that's why we have to repeal the Patriot Act and abolish DHS or defund it entirely or whatever. But that is that's a bipartisan effort.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I think we're wrapping it up. You guys, we have so many clips from the State of the Union, and I'm just going to delete them all. I think I'm going to do
I mean, we have a million clips we didn't get to on entirely other subjects. And honestly, the State of the Union was pretty fucking boring and a bunch of lies. And it's
not worth it at all. It was awful, but we will be back tomorrow. And, there's this, we'll talk a little more about ICE and Israel because there is so much overlap there. It's really horrifying to see Thank you to Oliver Larkin, who joined us today. He is fantastic. We will be following his run for Florida's 23rd district against Jared Moskowitz. Please, if you're able to support him in any way, oliverforcongress.com. Love you guys. Thank you for all the super chats. Keep punching up.
Yes. Cheers. We'll see you tomorrow. We're going out on more of the joy.
The joy
of the snow. Snow
6:30 tomorrow. 6:30 tomorrow.
6:30.
How you accomplish mission? You good? You okay? Let's do it. Fucking bitch!